Okay, we're recording.
Okay, welcome to another session of Lord Meher reading. We're in 1938, and let's begin the reading. Betty, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Baba ended enigmatically. Now, be ready for a big surprise on October 7th. The next day he added, my surprise has nothing to do directly with war or peace. This would be no surprise. War there will be, he declared. This is as certain as anything. On 29 September 1938, the British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain signed what was known as the Munich Agreement with Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini in an attempt to make peace with Germany and Italy to avoid war, in effect, turning over Czechoslovakia to Germany. Baba commented on Chamberlain's action. It won't work. There will definitely be war. During the First World War, the British Army had come to Erangown and turned it into a military camp, which later became Meherabad. In the course of conversation in the morning of the 30th, Pendu informed Baba, rumors of impending war are rampant. If war breaks out, we will have to vacate Meherabad at 24 hours' notice and hand over all these new structures. Baba smiled and replied calmly, we will see. No one is going to occupy it just now. You mean there won't be a war? Pendu asked. How can you grasp what I mean? What connection does war have with the structures here? There is a connection, since in the eventuality of war, we will have to hand over everything to the army at 24 hours' notice. And then, where will you keep the women who have been in strict seclusion all the time according to your order? Baba again smiled and commented, you seem to be very clever. Let's drop the subject for now. Attend to the work I've given you. However, later the same day, to the women, Baba stated, there will be war, whether it starts in February or in November or December. It is no concern of ours. Next page. Something will happen which will make them forget all their promises, and that too from quite a fresh point. Poland, Russia? So 5 months preparation for war and for my manifestation. When war is in full progress, I will speak in the middle of its climax. It will not last more than 1 year. So if it begins in February, then by July, I might speak. There will now be talk of world peace. Spiritually, everything but God is zero. Therefore, spiritually, war and peace are nothing. But externally, war is the most dreadful thing. Unless war were absolutely necessary for the spiritual upheaval, I would never allow a war to be. Never. But it is absolutely necessary for spiritual reasons. So from October to February, any day, war will start. Even if there is an agreement and peace is accepted and guaranteed, February will still be the latest date for the starting of the war. So we won't talk of war now until it begins, maybe in a month or 4 months. But on October 7th, I have a more important plan than war. This plan has indirectly to do with war and directly with you and me. Guess the surprise. They all had to guess, but it was only revealed to them a week later. The Hindu festival of Dasara was celebrated on Meherabad Hill on 3rd October. As per the custom of the day, the women dressed the dogs, Chum and Kippy, in clothes and flowers. A pet rabbit on the hill was also dressed in an outfit to amuse Baba, and Helen dressed herself like a rabbit. The women waited in their compound before Baba, and Walu beat on an empty oil tin as if it were a drum. All had light-hearted fun, and Baba happily watched the amusing antics. On Friday, 7th October 1938, the surprise was revealed when Baba spoke separately to the men and women Mandali about journeying all over India by bus. Baba's plan had unparalleled significance as he was to travel by this bus with his Eastern and Western women over the length and breadth of the country, contacting musts at many different places. The following day was a day of importance and significance for Baba's Mandali, according to Baba's explanations given some while ago to Pleader. All of the sanskaras of my circle members will be wiped off as of that day, 8th October 1938. All will be free of sanskaras. What Baba meant, he alone knew. The Mandali could only go about their assigned duties and tasks, devoting little more than a passing thought to the master's unusual remark. During this period, Jalbai had been ordered to visit surrounding villages and bring women who were pregnant to the maternity hospital on Mehrabad Hill. On 12th October at 4 a.m., a mentally unbalanced woman was the first to deliver a child there. It was a girl. That morning before dawn, Baba was the first to hear the baby's cry, and he summoned the others. He ordered special care be given to the child since the mother was not normal. A stout female physician named Dr. Kalavkar had been hired for 3 months. But if a patient in labor happened to arrive from the village at night, the doctor refused to get up and attend the patient. Once a village woman in labor showed up at 3 a.m. Baba awakened Mansari, but she did not have any experience in these matters and did not know how to deliver a baby. Fortunately, Memo was there at the time and came with Mansari to the hospital. Baba himself boiled hot water in another room, lit lanterns, and made the necessary preparations. Memo delivered the baby with Mansari's assistance, and when the child was born and washed several times, Baba went in to see it and kissed it. Mansari was of short stature. Baba had given her a large floppy hat to wear when walking in the sun. She wore it between the hospital compound and the kitchen. When she would carry the tea on a tray to the hospital patients, the hat would gradually fall down over her eyes as it was too big for her. Baba would point her out to the other women, and all would have a hearty laugh over it. Can you scroll up? Yeah. Nadine was the matron of the maternity home. On one occasion, Baba explained to her, "There are thousands of hospitals in the world. I could have thousands of nurses to work here. If I have given this work in the hospital to you, it is because I want you to learn the real spirit of serving, selflessness." At one point, Nadine wrote, "To the hospital came mostly the poorest elements of the country, wrapped in their rags and worn-out saris, the real destitute. When the medicines and injections given by the professional doctors could not bring its due relief, Baba's appearance and loving embrace acted as the holy wine, reviving their hopes and giving them the lasting impetus of recovery. The joy of seeing Baba and the faith that he alone can really help acted within their hearts as a sure remedy." I think this might be a good time to switch readers.
All right. Thank you, Betty. Eugene, would you pick it up, please?
Meanwhile, in England, Will and Mary Beckett were spreading Meher Baba's name there, telling many about the master's mission. On 13 October 1938, Baba wrote to Will, "I note what you say in your letters about the different ones you are helping and how, through your love for me, they too are drawing closer to me and also finding they can lean on me and feel my help, even though they may not have seen me in the flesh. To some, it is a greater help to know me through my disciples. Not all can understand the human side of love of God. Not all can understand the human side of God. It is more difficult for some to follow and obey God in human form due to preconceived ideas of God. Ghani's brother, Abdur Rahman, saw Baba on 13 October and requested Baba's help in a court case. His landlord and his wife, had been murdered in Lanavla, and the police were questioning him and his father about it due to a dispute between the landlord and Ghani's family, who were owed money. Kak Saheb also saw Baba that day. From the 15th, Baba began spending alternate nights in the tin cabin and in the Jopti in Lower Mehrabad. He began working in seclusion after 7 or 7:30 every evening until the morning. On 2 October 1938, Baba had written Delia de Leon in England. The world is in a state of fear and perplexity. No one knows what is going to happen. But wait and see. I know all, the present and the future, and nothing can stop the work that I am here to do. Am I not the avatar? The world will know it soon and accept me as such. Be patient, be calm, be steady and firm as a rock in your faith and love for me. I can then use you as a channel for my work, the work of divine love for the upliftment of humanity. As you know, I need none of you. I can work my will independently, but I have chosen, for my own reasons, a few to help me in that work. But these few need a love and faith as rare as that of St. Francis of Assisi. Let that same love of his for Christ be your goal, and love me as he loved his master. Delia wrote many questions about this letter, and on Sunday, 5 November 1938, Baba answered them in another letter to her. Have you not misunderstood my words? It is true that I need no disciples here or elsewhere. I can do my work alone through the heart of man, without choosing a few selected ones. But in this avataric period, as in the time of Jesus, I chose to live in close contact with me, either here or elsewhere, it does not matter, those who have been with me from ages past and who love me deeply and whom I have loved since eternity. Still, this does not prevent me from saying I can carry on my work without you. All could leave me, but the work would go on. It would make it harder for me. It would be a crucifixion. But nevertheless, the work of love would not suffer. Nothing can stop God's work. If my own refuse or disappoint me, I must get the work done through some other medium. You know, in spite of what you say in your letter, that nothing can separate you or all mankind from me, because I am in all. And God cannot be separated from himself, can he? But as I have so often explained, just as the eye or the ear may be more useful and necessary to man than, say, the sense of smell or touch, so some are more necessary to me for my present work than others. I say now, as always, Kimco is my heart and will ever remain my heart, wherever they are. And you know the value of the heart to the body. Your third point, are you as I made you? The sanskaras you have, I gave you to work. I gave you to work through for my work. So it is true to say you are as I made you. But the goal still remains for you and all to attain perfection through duality. Remember, Maya is my shadow. So indirectly, it is me too. It is the means by which the soul, divine though it is, but unconscious as yet of its divinity, must become conscious of its oneness with God. Herein lies the riddle of the universe and my game too. And how can you help in this game of mine? By love and service, by control of your mind and moods, and yes, weaknesses, which are there for the purpose of exercising control over them. Often, the greater one's love, the greater is the tendency to moods, because the pangs of separation are more acute. But I do not like moods, and therefore, to please me, which is one of the best ways of showing your love for me, try your best to overcome them. Goher Irani was now studying medicine in Bombay and staying with the Dada Chanji family. During school vacations, Goher would come to Meherabad to see Baba. And as Katie was living in Ahmednagar with her family, she too was allowed to come to Meherabad occasionally. The sisters came to stay with Baba at Meherabad for a week during their Diwali holidays of 1938 with Arnavaz and Nargis Dada Chanji. One day, Goher's mother, Khorshid, came to Meherabad with her sister Suna. After their initial meeting, Baba directed the two women to embrace all the women Mandali. But when they saw Gaimai and Manu Jesawala emerge from the kitchen covered with sweat, instead of embracing them, they folded their hands in greeting from a distance and walked away. But nothing ever remained hidden from Baba. When they came back to him, he asked, "Did you embrace everyone?" They spoke the truth and said they hadn't, explaining that Gaimai and Manu were covered with so much perspiration that they just said hello. The two women did not wish to have their nice saris stained with perspiration. Consequently, Baba took them before Gaimai and remarked to Khorshid and Suna Irani, "Your luck will flourish by their sweat because they are working for me. Embrace them heartily." Both embraced Gaimai and Manu as Baba watched, smiling. Khorshid and her husband, Rusi Pop, were debating whether or not to turn over all the property to Baba and remain dependent on him. Several meetings were held about this with Baba and the different members of Adi Sr. and Sarosha's extended family.
Okay, thanks, Eugene. Rosalie, pick it up, please.
In the end, the couple decided to dedicate everything to Baba, and he agreed to assume responsibility for the family's maintenance and for Goher's continued education. As mentioned, Baba wished a bus to be built in which he could tour in India. He dictated details to Adi Sr. on 14th October. These were sent to Sarosh by telegram on the 21st with the dimensions of the bus body and the amount to be spent to have it built, 1,800 rupees in Bombay. Papa Jesawala came on the 21st and saw Baba. A 3-hour meeting was held in which Papa agreed to allow his family to remain at Meherabad and to leave their responsibility to Baba's care. On 23rd October, Deshmukh and his wife arrived at Meherabad and stayed for 2 days. Baba dictated points to him and Adi Sr. about sanskaras for an upcoming Meher Baba Journal article. On the 30th, Ramju and Carmen Masi, who had also been visiting, left for Nasik. Chanji had been traveling back and forth between Bombay southern India, and Meherabad on work for Baba since the first week of October 1938. He had been sent to Hyderabad on 2nd October to contact Sir Haidari, and he was sent back a month later on 6 November to view possible bungalows to rent. Meanwhile, Mercedes de Acosta and Consuelo Cides had come to India in November with the intention of meeting other spiritual masters and yogis. They seem to have drifted away from Baba, chiefly because of listening to Paul Brunton. Nevertheless, Chanji and Norina met them in Bombay and brought them to see Baba at Meherabad on Thursday, 17th November 1938. Baba told them that he had no objection to them visiting other saints and masters, but warned them that, quotes, if you want to search for the truth, this is not the way, end quote. During their meeting, Baba emphasized to them, I must make myself clear, not because I want anything from you, but because I feel for you and because you have come all the way from Europe to see India. There are 3 types of spiritual beings in India: the sensational, the unassuming but deep and quiet, and the man god or God man. The sensational types just make a show of their knowledge of Vedanta and give lofty talks on higher ideals of life and spirituality. It is all on the surface, hence an outward show. They seek to create an impression, and people who go to them are impressed by miracles, which are really nothing more than tantric tricks. This is undesirable, being sort of a bargaining. I do not want this kind of faith. The other type, which is unassuming and quiet, is deeper in knowledge and experience because they are advanced souls and a few are perfect ones. They prefer a quiet life and do their work in silence, and hence are little known. The Ketubs, Sadgurus, experience godhood and manhood both. They have attained the spiritual heights and have also come down to human level to help mankind. Their methods are peculiar, hence not understood by most people. The next day, Baba ordered Chanji to accompany Mercedes and Consuelo to Kedgaon so that they could have the darshan of Narayan Maharaj. When they arrived at Narayan Maharaj's ashram at 2:30 p.m., they were informed that Maharaj had just retired for an afternoon rest 5 minutes before. But when Narayan was informed that 3 persons sent by Meher Baba had come, he returned. Narayan lovingly asked about Baba. Messages were exchanged, and with his blessings, Mercedes, Consuelo, and Chanji left. Chanji took them to Babajan's tomb in Pune for darshan before parting ways with them. He returned to Meherabad and they traveled on to South India, where they had Ramana Maharshi's darshan. The first edition of Meher Baba's journal was published in November of 1938. Narina had implored Baba to give a new discourse every month for the periodical, to which he had agreed. The first was entitled The Avatar. Adi Sr. recalls being asked to write the subsequent discourse on selfishness, and others from points dictated by Baba. But later, Adi suggested that Dr. Deshmukh in Nagpur, a professor of philosophy, be given this responsibility. Unknown to the Westerners, Chanji was instructed to write Deshmukh and request him to rewrite drafts of Meher Baba's discourses in the master's name for the magazine. Then, prior to publication, Baba would carefully peruse each draft and make corrections and additions. Thus, Deshmukh and at times Adi Sr., Ghani, Ramju, and others served as the master's ghostwriters and wrote the first drafts of the discourses based on Baba's dictation. Footnote. These discourses were subsequently published in Meher Baba Journal between 1938 and 1942. Years later, they were collected and are now available in book form as discourses. Oh, you want to scroll?
No.
When the first issue of Meher Baba Journal was printed, Baba had a copy sent to Narayan Maharaj. When Narayan received it, he gave it to one of his disciples and told him to go through it, distinguishing between what was written by Meher Baba and what was written by his disciples. After 2 days, the man informed Narayan that he had finished it. Narayan had him read aloud Baba's discourse, the Avatar. As the man was reading it to him, Narayan would exclaim in his childlike manner, "Oh, wonderful, wonderful." On 19th November 1938, Adi Sr. drove Baba, Norina, Elizabeth, Nani, and a few of the Mandali to the opening of Dr. Gangadhar Shastri Gune's Ayurvedic Hospital on Station Road in Ahmednagar, which Baba performed. Gulmai returned to Kushru quarters that day. Dr. Gune met Baba again at Meherabad on the 30th and asked for his help in expanding his Ayurvedic work. Baba told him to write up a proposal and he would review it upon his return from his tour. From the 1920s, in the early days of founding Meherabad, the Arangan villagers, when they had some dispute among themselves, would come to Baba, seeking his judgment in settling matters. Once Baba called all the parties in dispute to Meherabad to hear them out and invited the Western women to witness the court proceedings. The two feuding parties came and began arguing so vociferously that at one point Baba got up to leave as if fed up with the whole affair. They then agreed to abide by Baba's decision and were brought together on amiable terms. In gratitude, a few days later, on 26 November 1938, the Arangawan villagers led a procession up the hill to Baba's tomb, where he was waiting for them, and sang bhajans and performed dances for his enjoyment. Also on the same day, Walter Mertens arrived in Meherabad with Chanji. He was taken up Mehrabad Hill and allowed to see his wife Hetty. He was accommodated in Baba's Rahuri cabin. The following day, during a meeting with Baba, Walter expressed his feelings openly. I don't want to become an Eastern holy man or a monk. I am a European and believe in a spirituality which can express itself anywhere and in any activity. Baba answered, dictating, I stand over the East and the West. I am no yogi and no saint, but a God-man, as was Christ. You, Haiti, and I are one. You too will have great task ahead. You have always been with me. Baba sent Walter and Haiti to Panchgani for 5 days, accompanied by Pleader as their guide. They left on the 30th and returned on 5 December. Each person spent 1 night alone in Baba's cave in Tiger Valley, according to his instructions.
Okay, thanks. I'll finish up the page, Rosalie.
Rao Sahib came from Bombay to see Baba on 5th December, as did Manik Ranji from Nasik, and Kakabaria came the following day. On 7 December 1938, just a day before he left Mehrabad, Baba dictated points to Ghani about Sai Baba's life for an article in MEHER Baba Journal. He also called all the Mandali up the hill to show them the paintings Helen had done in his tomb.
All right, thank you. Vijay, would you like to pick it up?
Yeah, Jai Baba. 1960, chapter 14, Blue Bus Tours. Preparation for the bus journey were going on through the month of November 1938. Sarosh had had the body of the bus built in Bombay according to Baba's precise specifications. Because it was painted blue, it became known as the Blue Bus. At last, 8 December was fixed as the date of departure. On 19th November, while burning some dried grass, Valu's sari caught fire and her legs were severely burned. The burns turned septic, and Padri, who was dressing her wounds, and Dr. Kalavkar said to Baba that it was not good to take Valu on the trip in her condition. But Baba replied emphatically, no, all of us must start together. Maya must not be allowed to put obstructions in my way. Baba instructed the woman about the tour in detail. Ranu was assigned the duty of packing and unpacking at every stop. Kitty was to keep food and refreshments ready. In this way, each had her own particular duties to attend to. On 7th December, Baba approached Arach. Are you coming with us? Arach replied that it did not matter one way or the other to him. Baba spelled out, even to be indifferent is to keep something inside, and what is wanted is to be free of this something. Come with me. That morning, Sarosh arrived with the bus, and Padri drove it up the path to Mehrabad Hill. And Arach and Kaka loaded the baggage on top of it. There were so many packs of foodstuffs, cookies, cooking utensils, suitcases, bedding rolls, etc. that at one point Kaka 48 fainted from exhaustion and fell down while heaving them on top of the bus. Arach, who was 22 then and very strong, completed the task. When they were finished piling everything aboard, the bus had taken on quite a different appearance, similar to a gypsy caravan. Chanji had already left Mehrabad to arrange bungalows in Hyderabad with the help of Maharaja Sir Kisan Prasad and Maula Ali. The Maharaja had a palace in the Shad Nagar locality of Hyderabad. But since there had been incidents of plague in the area, he did not wish Baba to stay there. With extreme difficulty and due to the influence of the Maharaja and Maula Ali, Chanji arranged accommodation in a Seraglio harem quarters Sarai, in a palace garden at Lingampalli. Baba sent a telegram to Chanji saying that he wished to stay only in Shad Nagar. But Chanji received the instructions on 8 December, so it was too late to arrange something else. Blue was to.
Yeah.
Shall I continue?
Go ahead, read another page, yeah.
1961. Blue was tours. Before leaving Mehrabad, Baba sent away the boys Meherban Jesawala to Akbar Press to stay with his relatives and Dadi Kerawala to his family, telling them, I will call you later. Baba permitted Katie to come to Hyderabad by train with Walter and Pleader, who was to bring Lakshi and Bhami, the servants, and Muhammad Mast. At 4 o'clock in the early morning of Thursday, 8 December 1938, Baba left Mehrabad Hill in the blue bus with the following women of various ages: Mehra 31, Kakubai 52, Mani 20, Elizabeth 42, Naja 30, Hadi 45, Khurshid 28, Helen 60, Sunamasi 54, Irene 22, Walu 38, Kitty 47, Mansari 28, Nadain 54, Gaimai 38, Nani 63, Manu 19, Narina 58, Mehru Jesawala 17, Rano 36. Mehru Jesawala is Arach's sister. Elizabeth was the main driver and Arach and Kaka were seated next to her in the front seat. A wooden partition separated the driver's cabin from the rear section where the woman and Baba were seated. Baba sat directly behind Elizabeth and could communicate with her on his alphabet board through a small sliding window-like opening in the partition. The women were jammed into the back cabin amidst numberless small bags and sacks. Small stools had to be placed in the ISOs to accommodate everyone. Thus, there were 11 Eastern women in 9 Western women, 2 men, Mandali and Baba. A total of 23 persons riding in a bus designed for half that many. My God. The bandages and medicines for Walu's burns were turned over to Rano. according to Baba's instructions. Before this time, even the sight of blood made Rano squeamish. But obeying Baba, she overcame her uneasiness and took upon herself the unpleasant task of dressing and cleaning Valu's burned skin each day. The group reached Solapur in the evening, and Baba declared, "We have to start early tomorrow morning at 4 o'clock. Unloading the bus is not really necessary because to load it again would be a headache and take a lot of time." Therefore, as instructed, they all retired for the night in the Dak Bangla government rest house at Sholapur and slept on chairs, tables, or on the floor of the veranda. Araj and Kaka slept in the bus. Upon reaching Solapur, Baba asked Kitty if there was anything to eat. Kitty replied there was nothing except bread and a little cheese, because the cooked food they had carried with them had spoiled.
Okay, thanks, BJ. PC, would you like to read? Or Betty, if you're here? I mean, Eva.
Sure.
But
Baba instructed her to pass out bread with tea to the group and give the cheese to Elizabeth and Erich, the two drivers. Rano was unaware of Baba's instructions and remarked to Kitty, "I've worked just as hard as Elizabeth and Erich and have been up since 3 a.m. Am I not to have any cheese? I am also hungry." Baba never missed anything. He asked Kitty and Rano what they were talking about and eventually brought the incident out in the open. Rano felt ashamed and she repented for her outburst. They started for Hyderabad on 9 December. On the way, Baba said he was hungry. What did he ask for? Some very peculiar dishes. Narina's nose, Jafra rabati buffalo, salad of a lock of Mansari's hair, curry of the tail of a frog, and soup of Gaimai's hand. Such humorous, delightful interludes were welcome, and the time passed happily as Baba distributed puffed rice, peanuts, or sweets among the group. For lunch, while traveling, they would stop under the shade of trees by the side of the road, and Rano would attend to Walu's dressing. Walu had to be carried in and out of the bus since she was still unable to walk by herself. At about 7:30 in the evening, they arrived in Hyderabad, where Chanji was waiting for them 20 miles from the city. He informed Baba about the accommodation he had made, and they spent the night in the seraglio of the palace with their beddings on the floor. Pleader and Walter also arrived that night with Muhammad Must, Katie, Lakshi, and Bahami, and all stayed in different areas of the seraglio. The next day, Baba went with Chanji and some local persons from Hyderabad to look for a more suitable bungalow. They rented the palace of the Nizam's brother, Meher Ali, in the Begumpet locality, opposite Jagurdar College. They shifted there that night at 10 o'clock. Before going to sleep, Baba held a discussion about the upcoming tour and explained that the bus tour had 4 main objectives. First, to contact Mus. Second, to find a suitable place to establish a new ashram or center. Third, to give the women a chance to see the country and experience a different lifestyle than what they had been leading. Fourth, to visit the shrines and tombs of saints and perfect masters. Baba discussed the proposed ashram or center plan with various people of the city and was shown different places in Hyderabad. He preferred a spot 11 miles outside the city near a lake. Walter was asked to prepare a master plan for it. Footnote. Walter Mertens was a highly successful landscape architect by profession. A rough plan was drawn up, discussed, and altered. Maharaja Kisan Prasad, Maula Ali, and other influential persons felt confident because all of this work that Meher Baba was seriously considering moving to Hyderabad. On several occasions, Baba took the women to see Golconda Fort and other places of interest in Hyderabad. After a few more days of discussion about starting the new center in Hyderabad, when the plan was about to be finalized and put into effect, suddenly, on 15 December, Baba declared to those involved, "I have to proceed to Jabalpur on work, and I am going there at once. On my return, we will discuss things further." Footnote. In a letter to Adi Sr., dated 20 December 1938, Baba explained further, "In spite of all the best, they all tried to give us comfort in Hyderabad. There were so many complications that made our stay there rather uncomfortable and even unsuitable for the work. I therefore decided to leave it abruptly, which gave them all a shock, literally." During their brief stay in Hyderabad, Pleader was sent to contact a 6th plane Mastani called Mastani Mai. Baba commented, "She holds the key to all of Hyderabad in her hands." Although Baba did not contact the 60-year-old woman directly, he instructed Pleader to tell her that he was there in her city. Hetty and Walter were later sent with Pleader to the street where she lived to take her photograph. The woman, who was nearly naked all the time, resembled Babajan. On the morning of Saturday, 17 December 1938, Baba and the women left Hyderabad at 8:20 a.m. for Nagpur. On the way, he directed Elizabeth to drive fast, and as they neared the town of Nanded, he told her to drive even faster. Footnote. At one time, Nanded was also known as Nandlar. The bus was overloaded, and to drive at such a speed was dangerous, but Elizabeth obeyed. Suddenly, Baba ordered her to stop the bus, and he got down. A must was walking by the roadside. In order to catch and contact him, Baba had wished to hurry. Baba contacted the man under a tree alongside the road. It was getting dark, so they stayed at the dak bungalow in Nanded. They could not see well enough to separate the bedding rolls from the pile of other baggage. So again, they had to be content with sleeping on chairs, tables, or the floor. Thus, the women were having the contrasting experiences of sleeping in a palace one night and on the floor of a wayside bungalow the next. Kaka and Erich slept in the bus as usual. Pleader had already left Hyderabad 2 days earlier by train for Jabalpur with his charges. On the 18th morning at 6 o'clock, Baba and the group left Nanded for Nagpur. Reaching there in the evening at 7, Papa Jasawala had rented a small cottage for himself where all were somehow accommodated. Since his family was with Baba, Papa was feeling alone and sad. To improve his mood, Baba brought him round with humorous sallies, and his dejection left him. Also, Gai Mai had arrived with Baba, and her birthday was celebrated that day in her hometown. Papa was happy to see her and their children. The next morning, a few people came to see Baba. Chanji had stayed behind in Hyderabad to settle matters, but he met Baba in Nagpur before proceeding to Jabalpur to make arrangements there. Deshmukh and his wife came, and Baba went to a hospital also to see one of his lovers who was ill. Before departing Nagpur, Mahendra Lal Chaudhry, a wealthy landowner from the town of Mandla, came to see Baba. He was terribly worried, for he was involved in a murder case which had been dragging on for years. A warrant had been issued for his arrest. "I will save you, provided you follow my orders," Baba told him. "Go immediately to the police and surrender." The man left without agreeing, but he would soon find himself surrendering to a much higher authority. Baba left for Jabalpur on the afternoon of 19 December and reached there that evening at 8. Jal Karawala was a district magistrate and the extra assistant commissioner of Jabalpur, and consequently, he lived in a large government bungalow. Jal made his home at 65 Marble Rocks Road available for Baba and the women, and himself went to stay with the Mandali at a hired house nearby. The arrangements were splendid, and all felt quite at home. Jal's love for Baba was often praised, for he always acted as Baba directed. Baba was to spend 22 days in Jabalpur, and he also went to Mandla for 3 days. The first 10 days after his arrival were kept strictly secret, since, for the purposes of his work, he did not wish to see anyone or be disturbed. Meanwhile, the Jasawala's young son, Meherwan, had proven to be a burden to his relatives at Akbar Press, where Baba had placed him before leaving on the tour. Gai Mai's sister, Shrini's husband, Jahangir Damania, would continuously write to Gai Mai to take Meherwan back, claiming he was too much of a nuisance to look after. Gaimai seemed anxious one day, and Baba asked her the reason.
Okay, thank you. Anyone who hasn't read would like to read now? If
Have
not,
you read yet,
yeah, I'll
Marvin?
pick it up. No, I'll pick it up here. She said, "For us, you are put to so much trouble. Now there is Meherwan to worry about. We have come to you with only problems." Baba asked, "Do you love Meherwan or me?" Gaime replied, "To dedicate my one Meherwan at your feet is not enough. Even were I to surrender 1,000 sons, it would be nothing." Her reply made Baba happy, and he consoled her. "As you have come to me, leaving everything behind, what trouble will it be to me?" Then he said, "You are not worthy of being Erich's mother, but you are worthy of being my mother." On the 22nd, Baba had a letter sent to Masaji at Meherabad, instructing him to bring Meherwan to Japalpur, and he informed Gaime that when Meherwan arrived, he was to stay with the women Mandali. Meherwan was about 8 at the time, and he was the first boy to remain with the women. Papa arrived in Japalpur on the 23rd evening and had a long talk with Baba. The question of finding an ideal boy for Baba's work was still ongoing. Rao Saheb sent one from Bombay on the 22nd, with Shahryar Mirapanpur. The boy was humble, but weak and dull, and hence unsuitable. Shagan continued to search for a boy, as did Jal Karawala and others. Saturday and Sunday, 24th and 25 December 1938, were spent in Bedagat, or Marble Rocks, as it is popularly known, about 13 miles from Japalpur. Baba stayed in the dak bungalow there with all. At 3 p.m. on the 24th, he took them to see Duandar Falls and to a Hindu temple with 64 idols of gods and goddesses inside. Picture of Baba by the falls there. On Christmas morning, they took a boat ride on Narmada River. Baba dipped his hands in the water and posed as Rano took a photograph of him. Gaime observed wistfully, "How long the Narmada has awaited you, Baba?" Baba just smiled, and here's a rather well-known photo of Baba in the river with his hands. After their return from the river, Baba said, "While we were on the boat, I remembered a story about a perfect master. The women eagerly requested that he tell it, and so he began. There was once a Sadguru staying in a certain place with a few of his disciples. One night his Mandali were conversing among themselves, saying that though they had stayed with the master for the past so many years, still they had gained nothing. The Sadguru was all-knowing, and he of course knew what his disciples were talking about. But he did not say anything and appeared innocently unmindful of them. The next day, all took their seats before the master. He noticed they seemed to be in a sad mood. The master inquired the reason, and they told him what was on their minds. He laughingly told them to be patient, and in a short time had completely changed their remorseful mood into one of gaiety. All forgot their dejection. Some days later, the Sadguru told his disciples, "Don't do any work today, and enjoy yourselves for a change. You have the whole day to yourselves, so eat, drink, and be merry." This made them jubilant, and they spent the day happily playing cards, listening to music, jesting and joking with one another. In the evening, the Sadguru said, "We will go out in the boat tonight." This made his disciples even more happy, and they said, "Master, it would be grand if you allowed us to take a little wine this evening." The master readily agreed, and all drank and ate to their heart's content. They took their seats in the boat and continued playing cards, listening to music and enjoying themselves thoroughly. The master told them to take turns rowing the boat by twos, and so it went. They were overjoyed to be allowed so much freedom, and after a few hours, the Sadguru observed, "We have come a long distance, and we won't be able to return before dawn." The disciples said with bravado, as they were slightly tipsy by now, "However far we have proceeded, we will surely return home by morning. We will row even harder." The master did not say a word. It was a moonlit night, and all got very drunk. Dawn began breaking over the horizon, and the master said, "Oh, it is morning now, and we still have not returned home." The intoxicating effects of the wine were wearing off by now, and they thought they had come a long distance. But then, carefully observing their surroundings, they saw, to their astonishment, that they were where they had boarded the boat the night before. In their intoxication, instead of rowing the boat, they had stayed right where they had started from. Sadhguru then commented, "The whole night you were rowing and rowing, and I was also seated with you. But the boat did not move at all. You are where you were and have not gone a step further. What is the reason for this?" One replied, "We were drunk and thought we were rowing the boat. In fact, it was tied to the dock all the time." The master explained, "Because of your remaining absorbed in worldly enjoyment, you are exactly where you were. Although I was with you, what could I do when you emerged in material pleasures? In the same way, despite your being with me for years, instead of coming closer to me, you remain drowned in temporal pleasures. What do you expect to gain? How will you benefit by my contact? You will remain as you are. Therefore, don't be a slave to material happiness. Be my slaves and see what you gain without even asking." This made all remember their mood of dejection, and they trusted and believed what their master was saying was true. Baba then explained to the women, "I am showing you beautiful sights, sailing with you and taking you here and there. All this is to free you from material bondage. Doing all this, all the while I am attentive to whose mind is where, and when I interrupt you in your reveries with a view to freeing you, you take it ill and your mood is upset. If I do not behave like this, of what use would it be your remaining with me for years together? Remember to focus your attention always on me, even while enjoying things. Don't remain drowned in material pleasures. Don't give rein to your desires. Only love me. When you love me only, then the intoxication of that love, then in the intoxication of that love, you will find all physical pleasures lifeless." Baba then teased them. Those disciples believed faithfully in the word of their master, but you are such types that in spite of my telling you this, you are eagerly waiting for me to finish so you can all go and eat. Everyone laughed. Masaji arrived in Jaipalpur by train with young Meher Jaswala on 26 December 1938. As soon as Masaji saw Baba, he fell at his feet and began weeping. Baba asked the cause of his outbreak. Masaji replied, "Baba, you have saved me. Otherwise, I would not have been able to face you ever again." At Chalisgaon station, I got down to check the luggage in the baggage department, but the train started before I could return. I was left standing on the platform and did not know what to do. With your name on my lips, I began weeping, and somehow the station manager came to me and offered his help. He wired the next station and sent me there by another train. When I arrived, I found Meher safe. Baba took Masaji in his embrace and assured him he was always with him. Masaji then returned to Meherbad. And a picture here of Baba playing marbles with Meher. Generally, since Baba had started the journey, he had not been embracing anyone, nor was he allowing anyone to bow down to him and touch his feet. Until this day, only on someone's birthday would he embrace the person concerned. On the morning of 27 December, Baba was driven in a taxi with Hetty and Walter Mertens to an old palace named Madan Mahal, built on top of a mountain near Japalpur. The next morning, around 8 o'clock, Baba went with the women to Mandla. They stayed at the circuit house there, and the Mandali, Papa, Erich, Kaka, Chanji, Jal Kerawala, stayed in a nearby private bungalow belonging to Mahendra Lal Chowdhury. And we have a footnote. A circuit house is a government rest house meant to accommodate members of the bench of a circuit court. Okay, that's enough. Let's go ahead. Referring to Mandla, Baba remarked, Mandla was inhabited in ancient times by great saints, yogis, ascetics, recluses, and tapasvis, who performed great penances here. Its earth is soaked in spirituality. Footnote. A tapasvi is one who does penance. Baba then visited a popular pilgrimage site, the Sashtrata temple on the Narmada River. While dangling his feet in the water, Baba remarked, the avatar sanctifies the waters of any river when he puts his feet in it. Some people in Mandla came to know about Baba and came for his darshan. Baba refused to give darshan. It would not even meet anyone. As the group was returning, a lawyer shouted curses at Baba and thereafter created strong opposition against him in Mandla. As it was discovered later, the man was suffering with cancer and died shortly thereafter. December 29 was celebrated as Meher's birthday that year, according to the Zoroastrian calendar. She got a very special embrace from her beloved that morning, and then Baba took her and the others on a boat ride. In the evening, Baba spent time at the Mandali's residence. He was in a very happy mood, and after years, he played a few games of tic-tac-toe with them. He also made these remarks. 3 things have to be eliminated before God realization: greed, lust, and backbiting. The last is the worst and most disastrous. One can overcome greed and even lust, both of which are very difficult to overcome. But the worst, speaking ill of others, finding fault in others, is the most difficult because it incurs more sanskaras of others, which is disastrous spiritually. Photo of Baba, Mira, and I think maybe Naja or Khorshid. Naja, I think. Khorshid, okay. An attorney named Murlidhar Patak came to Baba on the 30th and said, there is a very good place here for setting up an ashram. Please come with me to see it. The man was a friend of Jal Kerawala, who had been posted to Mandla in 1937, and had heard that Baba was looking for a spot to establish a center. Patak was told to return the next morning at 8:30, but was late. Baba canceled the appointment, and he was just leaving the circuit house when the attorney arrived. Another appointment was given for 10:30, and this time Baba went with him and saw the spot. He liked it and instructed Jal to purchase 100 acres if the price was reasonable. Baba and the group then left for Japalpur in 2 cars and a bus. Baba's car left at 1 in the afternoon and arrived in Japalpur at around 3:15. That year, Time magazine named Gabriel Pascal as the leading figure in the film industry for 1938. Pascal informed Baba about this in a telegram and stated, I am glad that I have not failed your faith and prophecy, but this is only the beginning. I will create, as I promised, miracles through art. On Sunday morning, the 1st of January, 1939, Jal Carawala made a joke at Papa's expense, and Papa became very upset. He drove straight to Baba's bungalow and complained bitterly. Jal and Chanji followed him, and Baba sent for them and asked the reason for the uproar. Jal replied, "Forgive me, Baba, I was only joking." Papa shouted, "Who has made him a magistrate? He has no sense. He should not be forgiven." Smiling, Baba spelled out, "I would not forgive Jal, but to forgive is my nature. If I don't forgive him, the world will collapse. Only by my forgiveness does the world continue, not otherwise." Papa said, "You should continue forgiving the world, but not Jal Carawala. He has troubled me greatly." "All right, Moshe Baba, I won't forgive Jal, but you forgive him." Jal asked Papa's forgiveness, and finally, after hours of fuming, he forgave him. Baba, however, said to Baba, "I have forgiven Jal because you requested, but I tell you, he is the very devil." Baba explained to Papa, "This is not forgiveness. The meaning of forgiveness is to forget the insult. When you remember it, how could you have forgiven it? After forgiving, you should not remember the incident or hold anything against him." Betty, would you like to read another page or two before we end here? Or shall I continue?
No, I'll read.
Go ahead, Ben.
1970 Blue Bus Tours. Oh, that's page 1970. Blue Bus Tours, 1939. Today is New Year's. Excuse me, I'll turn my. I've got a heater going. Sorry. Today is New Year's, and you should make a resolution to forgive and forget. Only by forgetting can you truly forgive. Otherwise, what is the use of merely saying the words, "I forgive you"? It must be from the heart. Papa left for Nagpur the following day. Dr. Deshmukh arrived from Nagpur on the 1st to see Baba. Deshmukh had written a Marathi book on Baba's life, which had recently been published. He told Baba that people were asking him why Baba was calling himself God. They were saying, "Isn't this the expression of Meher Baba's ego? Isn't he a supreme egotist?" Deshmukh did not know how to answer them. Baba gave this explanation. In all that a God-realized soul or an ordinary man says or does, the I in him asserts itself. The difference between the two is that the I in the ordinary man is limited, whereas in the God-realized being, it is unlimited. If Deshmukh says, "I have written the book," it is the limited I and Deshmukh's asserting a certain job he has done. But when I say, "I am God," it is the unlimited I asserting its universal aspect. The limited I must go for the unlimited I to take its place. The limited I is like a 7-headed demon. The 7 heads of lust, anger, greed, attachment, pride, jealousy, and hatred must be killed so thoroughly that not even the slightest trace remains. When the false I is completely destroyed, another I, which is real and unlimited, takes its place. On 2nd January 1939, Baba wrote this short but loving note to Baidul at Meherabad. "Dear Baidul, how are you? How is dear Swami or Swamiji? How is the big-headed doctor, Gani? How is the pig-headed Bailey? How are my dear mad children? Write me a letter in Gujarati through Bailey. My love to the sane and insane inmates of the Mad Ashram.
Okay, Betty, why don't we stop here? It starts another thought, and we can pick that up starting next week. Just make a note where we stop, please. Page 1970, last paragraph. And let's stop the recording.
I want to say one thing about the blue bus, because it was such a special time that Baba